There's 4 different types of precipitation that we see in the winter time across the Tennessee Valley. Now, some winters we may get away without seeing some snowfall, but that was not the case this winter. So I'm going to talk about the different types of precipitation and why we see these different types throughout the winter season. So first and foremost, let's just go ahead and start off by saying all precipitation that falls from clouds begins at some sort of an ice crystal, whether that's snow or a freezing ice pellet, but depending on if it's going through a warmer pocket of air will depend on the type of precipitation that we see. So for rain, we're going to start off in the colder portion of the atmosphere, but by the time we reach that 32-degree or above threshold and it remains all the way to the surface, giving that ice crystal enough time to melt, and it turns into rainfall. Whereas freezing rain, you're going to have a cold start, so a colder pocket in the atmosphere. It goes through a little bit of a warming, and then notice how it gets just a tad colder heading into the surface area of the atmosphere. So that's how we get that freezing rain. You'll notice the difference between rain and freezing rain just by the way it sounds as it hits the ground. Now, sleet is basically the same as freezing rain. It just has a little bit more time to turn into a more hard ice crystal. So it has a little bit of a deeper, colder pocket of air that it moves through. And of course, snow, that's when it starts out as an ice crystal from the cloud and it stays below freezing, the atmosphere does, all the way down to the ground. So snowflake formation, how exactly do we get different types of snowflakes, how they look, and of course the difference in a snowflake and an ice crystal? Well, first, your air column temperature has to be below freezing, so that's 32 degrees or below. Extremely cold water molecule will freeze onto a dust particle, and that's going to set the stage for ice crystal formation. Now, like I said, the air temperature is still going to be below freezing, so the shape, because of their shape, water molecules will tend to form a hexagon when they start to bond together. So that's when we're going to start to see it take a little bit more shape. And then, of course, more and more water molecules will freeze and they're going to bond to each other. And that's how we have a hexagonal ice crystal that's going to form. Now, when it goes through the growing stage, that's when we have even more water molecules that's going to freeze onto the ends of the crystals. That's what we call dendrites, which are the arms of the snowflake ice crystal. So it's going to form on the edges and the freezing is going to continue. Now, ice crystals, it tends to be, a little bit warmer. It's going to depend on if we're going to be seeing a type of branch that's going to come from the ice crystal. So ice crystals tend to be needles